Guys, I was gonna go ahead and use the iCarly theme song to open up this review, but you know what? Copyright is a heck of a thing, so I'm gonna go ahead and sing it, but this time without any Drake bell. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I know you see somehow. Don't cut my microphone. Why would you? What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and I promise I'm not going to try singing throughout the rest of this video, but today we get a special chance to talk about iCarly, the Reboot, the 2021 series that is streaming right now exclusively on Paramount Plus. The first 3 episodes are released today or this week, depending on when you're watching the video, and weekly, I believe it's 1 episode a week, so it's going to be exciting for fans of the original and hopefully some new fans of the show. It's directed by Phill and stars Miranda Cosgrove as Carly, Jerry Trainor as Spencer, Nathan Kress as Freddie, and Laci Mosley as Harper, a new character to the series. Now, if you remember, the last time we saw iCarly was in 2012, so it has been a little while since we've seen this cast and crew together once again. But if you don't know much about the reboot, this series follows Carly Shay as she navigates the next chapter of her life, moving past a failed relationship and reinventing her web show iCarly. And like I said, the first 3 episodes are streaming now, and there are 13 episodes in total for this season. Now guys, before we get into what I liked and what I didn't like too much about these first 3 episodes, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I talk about movies and TV like this all the time, so you're not going to want to miss out. Go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell so you'll be the first one in the comments. Hit that big thumbs up button and let me know down below, were you a fan of these first 3 episodes, or are you a little worried that this series is not exactly living up to the hype and your expectations? Because I came into this series with some expectations, because if y'all know me, I'm a big fan of Nickelodeon shows, especially growing up, and iCarly was close to the top of that list. I lived for this show. And as a fan of the show, it was really cool to see that the episode titles still kept with the same style, I So and So. Episode 1 is called I Start Over, episode 2 is I Hate Carly, and episode 3 is I Faux Apologize. And it's cool to see that the format isn't necessarily overstuffing itself with content. Each episode is coming in at just under 30 minutes, so they are easy watches. And to be honest, guys, I think for the most part, this revival has worked. So let's get into the positives for this show. For fans of the original series like myself, I think you'll not only enjoy the callbacks to our favorite episodes here, but that the original cast, for the most part, is reunited again. And that in and of itself is a huge win. Yes, we don't get Gibby and Sam, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's really cool to see Spencer, Freddie, Carly together again. And I know we've seen a lot of reboots and revivals lately, for better or for worse, but guys, iCarly is one reboot that works. I love how the awkward humor is present in every single episode, and there's a level of self-awareness to the writing that is a bit more mature, not only in tone but in attitude, that we didn't get in the series years ago. But let's go ahead and start with the series premiere, guys, which was off to a confusing start. Yes, I know that must sound weird after I was just raving about the reboot, but what I will say is that the first 10 minutes of the show, I was spending them very confused, because the last we saw of Carly, she was on a plane to Europe with her father, and then, you know, credits roll and we see Sam ride off with her motorcycle. But in the reboot, they don't necessarily address that right away, so I was scratching my head wondering, are you going to talk about all of the missing pieces that we have not been able to see on screen? So clearly they were going to have to touch on that eventually, and they do. Luckily, it comes in a quick conversation with Carly and someone else, I won't say who, but it's kind of cool that, guys, we eventually get a little bit of the fill in the blanks for the time that we've missed with Carly and the gang. But I won't lie, it was still a little bit jarring for the first 10 to 15 minutes, but after that initial stretch, guys, iCarly begins to hit its stride, and everyone in the cast that isn't named Jerry Trainor or Nathan Kress seems to find their groove. And the reason I say that is because Miranda Cosgrove is awesome. She brings the awkward humor that I really loved as a kid in this reboot, but she almost seemed like she wasn't comfortable in her surroundings here for the first, 15 minutes or so. It's not until that final scene in the first episode where I felt like she was natural and comfortable in this show. She almost felt like she was delivering her lines a little bit awkwardly, but not on purpose, and it seemed to me like maybe, just maybe, it wasn't going to work. But thankfully, like I said in the final act of episode 1, once she revives the legendary web show we know as iCarly, everything falls into place. And after 3 episodes, it's clear to me that there is still room for a show like iCarly on a platform like Paramount Plus. I mean, this is a very good show to stream. It's an easy watch. And yeah, it's a pretty good escape. And that's due in large part to this cast, so let's talk about them, starting with Jerry Trainor himself. As you know, he plays Carly's brother Spencer. He's rich, he creates very obscure art, and has an amazing apartment where the entire show takes place. But his physical humor, Jerry Trainor's comedic timing, is excellent here. It's like he never took a day off of working on iCarly. It's incredible, and I love his chemistry with his co-star Nathan Kress, who plays Freddie. Both Spencer and Freddie are the funniest duo so far, and they both have this unreal amount of chemistry like I mentioned. I loved every moment with them, especially in episode 2 where Spencer needs a little bit of help with his everyday routine and Freddie is the one to guide him. It's so fun, and the gags again are just hilarious to me. But then there are the newcomers, Laci and Mosley, who plays Carly's roommate Harper, and Jaden Triplett, who plays Millicent, Freddie's stepdaughter. Yes, you heard that correctly. Freddie's stepdaughter. Freddie was divorced according to the show and assumed custody of his stepdaughter apparently, which makes her a regular cast member in this reboot. But you know what? Harper and Millicent are excellent additions to this cast. I love how Harper brings this bit of flair, and her humor and the way she delivers her lines has a certain punch to it. And then there's Millicent, who's young, but guess what? Don't underestimate her. She might be young in age, but she's mature in thinking, and she is just so good at bringing a certain amount of sass to the role as well, because when she's pinned up against Carly, I love the way she claps back against Carly. And I am a big fan of how this show understands that we live in a digital era where, yes, even kids can be big content creators and understand the digital landscape. It's really cool that way. And don't worry, I'm not forgetting to talk more about Miranda Cosgrove, the face of iCarly, as Carly herself. Like I said, she's still so good in this role. She delivers a lot of humor that works for me, and honestly, I resonate with those awkward moments that she's a part of. And I do like that the show gives her this hopeless romantic angle, and again, we start to see that she's really vying for that next relationship. She wants a man in her life, apparently, but it's just funny to see the lengths she goes for boys that she might have just met, I don't know, at a Skybox. Yes, it's called Skybox, not Starbucks in the show. Alrighty guys, so we already talked about Freddie having a stepdaughter, but let's talk a little bit more about some of the other big changes in this reboot. Fans of iCarly will recognize that Gibby isn't in the show, right? And Sam as well, and that's because Jeanette McCurdy has retired from acting, and she already didn't decide to come back years ago. Like we learned that she was going to be done with iCarly and every other show a while back, but her not being here does feel like there is a piece of the puzzle missing. Both Carly and Sam were highlights for me in the original series, so it does stink to not see them get moments together in 2021. But Carly does address the character of Sam in these first 3 episodes, especially in episode 1. I don't think she's mentioned too much or mentioned at all in episodes 2 and 3. In episode 1, we learn from Carly herself that Sam is off riding with her biker gang, the Obliterators, and she's just off doing her own thing. And that's exactly how they eventually write out the character of Sam from iCarly. It is obvious that Carly misses her, but I'm just wondering why they didn't also talk about Gibby. But moving on from that, let's talk about the setting. We are in Spencer's new-ish apartment, honestly, and there is a moment in episode 1 where they go up to Spencer's old apartment, which is the old set, and it's neat to see a scene that takes place there as well. But it's cool to see the changes that aren't too terrible, to be honest with you. I think that they flowed well with this reboot for the most part. And outside of just story-driven changes, there's also a different attitude to the show itself. It's definitely more self-aware, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to them commenting on social issues and political issues. It does take that extra step sometimes to even teach a lesson about how to interact with others in this digital era. And I think that's actually really cool, and it's a very mature turn for a show like iCarly. And in episode 2, there's a moment that briefly reveals Harper is interested in dating women. So there's a small moment of representation as well for the LGBTQ plus community. Oh, and if you ever wanted to hear Carly curse, well, you get that here too, even though it's only in one scene, just like a furry joke. Well, they actually had 2 scenes about the furries. It was interesting. So with all that said and all the praise that I'm giving this iCarly reboot, there are a couple of drawbacks to this show, and the one at the top of the list really is episode 3. And I'm not just talking about certain moments in episode 3. Guys, episode 3 as a whole was pretty bad. I'll be honest, it was a huge departure from episodes 1 and 2, and to me it seemed like a lot of not only filler, but moments that were clearly uninteresting, and to me they just didn't really push the series forward. It wasn't memorable at all, and I actually don't remember laughing too much in episode 3 either. And the only other negative would be that unnatural, forced dialogue for about the first 10 to 15 minutes of episode 1. It's going to distract some viewers, and I'll be honest, stick with it and it will get better. But if you definitely want to tune out, I wouldn't blame you. However, I would just let you know it gets better from that moment on. So please, if you're turned off by the first 10 minutes of episode 1, stick with it, and I think you'll find yourself really enjoying the rest of episode 1 and episode 2. So overall, you guys, the first 3 episodes of this iCarly reboot are a success. I really enjoyed what we got. It was funny, I found myself smiling, I was getting nostalgic, and yeah, I was singing along to the theme song. There's a lot here to love if you're a longtime fan of the series, and if you're a newcomer, the show does a good job at getting you assimilated into this environment. It's funny, it's awkward, but that's iCarly in a nutshell. And I love how the cast feels like they never really took a day off from being around one another. You can tell Miranda Cosgrove is just really happy to be there. Trainor is just a joy to watch on screen. Nathan, Kress, everyone is coming together and just really providing some quality moments of television. Is this going to be one of the best series of the year? Probably not, but it doesn't need to be. This is a treat for iCarly fans, both old and new, and guys, I think you're really going to enjoy what we've already gotten in the first 3 episodes. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of the iCarly reboot. The first 3 episodes, like I said, are pretty much a success. So guys, I need to know what you have to say down below, because it's time to talk about this. You can go wild with spoilers if you like. Get loud down below and let me know if you agree with me or if you disagree with me and you think that these first 3 episodes aren't good at all. Let me know down below. And also, if you haven't already, hit the big red button, because guys, we are so close to the big 5,000 milestone marker. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, and it's all because of you. And hey, if you haven't already, smash that thumbs up button if you're a big fan of iCarly. Alrighty guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I promise not to try and sing in the next review. I gotta work on that. Maybe I need to hire a vocal coach. Let me get my Paraphone real quick. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.